And we're live. Welcome back to a very special episode of This Is Dunder Moose. I'm glad you guys are here, whether you're pro SR or no bro SR. Here's the thing. Contrary to Driving and Dragons, popular series, Intelligence is a Dump Stat, I actually do have a brain. I am a human and I have a human brain. And what that means is it is going to try to fool me with two very powerful concepts. One of those being confirmation bias, wherein my brain's going to see things that I already agree with. And if it sees things out in the universe that tend to agree with what I've already clamped my mind on, it'll grab onto them and be like, okay, I love this. This backs me up. I'm going to take it. Right. And the other force that you're up against is cognitive dissonance, whereas you've grabbed onto something, you see data points that might contradict what you've already grabbed onto, and you're just like, nope, not gonna let that in, right? So the only way that I know of to overcome that is to shut my mouth and listen. And not just to anybody. I was telling these guys, I don't just want crazy people to yell at me. That's been happening to me since I've been on Twitter. I wanted the best, the sharpest critics of this play style that I have espoused. I want the people who I want gaming historians, I want erudite folk, and they wanted me to also include Driving and Dragons. So I got all three of them here for you. I got Driving and Dragons, I got Griff, and making his This Is Dunder Moose debut, RPGPundit. Welcome to the show, guys. How you feeling about tonight?
Oh, it's going to be so fun.
Give me a couple of these, I'll feel great about it.
All right. Let's start off with Driving and Dragons. On your premiere episode of Intelligence is a Dump Stat, which how many are you up to by now of those?
Intelligence is a Dump Stat is actually coming up on its anniversary. It's almost a year old.
Okay.
So we're at almost 50 by now.
Almost 50 episodes. All right. Well, on the very first one, you dropped this quote. I may not get it exactly right. You said, Jeffro has never created or developed a thing. He simply copied the text from D&D rule books and claimed the genius of other people for himself. So I'm interested. What do you guys think of that statement? Is that true or false or somewhere in between?
I'll let Pundit. He's on this side for me. I'll let Pundit
he's
speak to that first.
For me.
Well, I think that the sentiment is true, but actually my criticism of Jeffro is that everything he's ever done, and remember, I knew him, I think it must have been 2013 or so, back on Google Plus was the first time he took my attention.
Is that where you met Jeffro? Was Google Plus?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Do you remember the meeting?
Well, he was posting at that time. This was his first major grift. He was posting about Appendix N and claiming that Appendix N is actually like the secret code to understanding the D&D, right? And at the time, I didn't worry too much about that because there were a lot of people that were kind of like trying to be pseudo-intellectuals in the OSR who were doing a similar thing, right? He was actually ripping off James Malazewski's stuff. He was like a second-rate James Malazewski, which means he's like a third-rate human being, right? But
can you unpack that? You said D&D. What does that mean? I've not heard that.
At that time, there was like a lot of blogging still going on, right? It wasn't so much YouTube, right? And bloggers have to figure out things to do, right? And a number of OSR bloggers who liked to present themselves as like really sophisticated intellectuals started trying to suggest that, the OSR, because it's old school, right, has to go back and find like a one true D&D that was like the original perfect version of D&D. And it started with like some people going back to say, well, anything that came after AD&D first edition is not OSR, right? And then some other people said, no, AD&D first edition is not OSR, right? That's too new, right? And then other people are saying, no, it's only like the white box, right? And then there were people saying, no, D&D is like what happened before D&D was ever published, right? And there were like people trying to find. Yeah, they were like people trying to find like laundry lists that Gary Gygax had written in 1972 to try to like decipher what it might mean in the context of D&D, right? And James Malazewski was a big figure in that. And Jeffro got on the bandwagon with a kind of, I mean, it was a kind of clever idea, and I understand because he's also like very into pulp stuff. That he said, no, the key to all D&D is Appendix N, right? Appendix N was like Gary's master list that he so carefully curated to say, these are the things you must know if you're going to ever understand D&D. But like, we know that that's not true. It was a list of stuff Gary liked, like that was what it was. And so my response to him on Google Plus was that, there are a large number of appendices in the DMG.
Yes.
And Appendix N is one of the least practically useful ones. Like the one for random dungeon generation is more useful. The tables for designating flavoring in the dungeon, overland encounters, all of that stuff. Like the appendixes are the coolest part of the DMG, but Appendix N is like basically just a bibliography, right? And so that's where we had our first encounter. And so right away there, his argument was based on like this fictional pseudo history that he created. And everything he did after that was the same thing, because when the grift of Appendix N kind of died out after he did his book on Appendix N, he needed a new grift. And so there he decided to say, no, you know what? The true D&D is AD&D first edition, rules as written. But then he didn't actually run it rules as written. He demanded that people do it by particular interpretations he himself invented, right? And then there was the same thing with one time, and then there was the same thing with like Bronstein's, right? Every time he doesn't actually talk about how it really was historically. He invents something in his head and then decides that's how it was, right? And this is a characteristic of what you could call a reactionary cult. Like, for example, modern day jihadists, right? Modern day jihadists, what do they want? They say, we want to restore the Ummah, we want to restore the Empire of Islam, the Caliphate, so that it is just the way it was in the perfect golden age of Baghdad, right? Of when they had the original Umayyad Caliphate. But in their minds, the story they tell about the Umayyad Caliphate was that it was like this perfect, virtuous, ideal Muslim society that did everything they wanted to do, right? Like, that had this like ultra strict Sharia law and all this stuff. And in fact, if you know the history of the Umayyad Caliphate, it wasn't like that. It was exactly the opposite, right? But they invent this pseudo history and then project it back in time and claim that's what it was really like back then, right? And that's a characteristic of a reactionary
It's
movement.
like being a Victorian. It's just like, Victorian culture.
I have a follow-up question, but we have some.
It's like prostitution flourished, and it's like,
Yeah.
How did we have this Christian Victorian society? It's all prim and proper, but we have more prostitutes now than we've ever had in history.
All right.
But anyway, go on.
It's getting historic real quick. I got a follow-up question, but I do want to address some super chats that we've got. Agile Monk, thank you for the $10. Says, Dunder Moose, you deserve this. I don't know what I did to deserve this. I'm just kidding. Having these three gents on this event, as it's going to get real spicy. Well, it's already getting spicy. I hope you guys are enjoying the species spice so far. I am barely able to keep up with the chat. You guys are
I'm not looking at it.
Yeah.
Chad is amusing.
Not John Dacre said, I'm wearing as many trousers as Dunder currently has mustaches.
Uh-oh.
Good to be here.
Good thing he's in the chat and not on the show.
Yeah, I do have to address one thing, and of course, this does come
I got one more. I got one more, and then I'll let you address it, and then I'll ask my follow up question. Folder Bloat says, I hope these guys are here to tell me about their active, alive, deep, and involving campaign play over the past several years. Otherwise, they have no footing to lecture anyone about D&D. And thank you for the $10.
Can you block that guy from the channel?
Look, I'm your Huckleberry right here. Like I have just celebrated this past weekend the 14th consecutive year playing every 2 weeks of my Last Sun campaign. It's been an epic. Every 2 weeks,
Which
5 hours a session, right? Of the World of the Last Sun, and that is one of 3 campaigns I currently run. The other one is Sword and Caravan that I've been running for several years now, and my current Baptism of Fire campaign that I've been running for about 2 years now.
Jesus Christ!
So I always play. Yeah,
right on.
I couldn't find the DVD for the movie.
I got
I know
another.
a little bit about D&D history.
And in case you think I'm lying, by the way, you can go on Bill Primostaff's channel, Bill the Elf's channel. He has audio recordings of every session of World of the Last Sun that we have done for the last, 7 years, I think.
Right on.
So I honestly think
you
that
can listen to me play running the game. Okay,
that's
what you want.
Worst. That may have been
Thanks
one
for the
of
$10, by the way, R-Dubs. He says Folder Bloat is a dumbass.
Yes, he is. And I'm going to say he is because it's like, one of the key things is if you're going to pop off about somebody or pop off, an attack on a group, you may want to pay attention to who you're popping off on, because if you even do a cursory look here, like Pundit just said, World of the Last Sun campaign that's been going on forever. It's on my Twitter, and a bunch of BROSR guys have responded to it. I literally just TPK ended a 3.5-year 3.5 game. So it's like, you're going to sit here and say, well, you guys better have your long and enduring campaigns. It's like, well, yeah.
So, I'd say we've established we've established bona fides. You guys actually play. There is evidence of this. You can look up the receipts. I am not bringing on weirdos who have nothing to say on this, guys. I purposefully sought out the strongest voices in criticism of the BROSR. Right? So
I showed up because I thought it'd be kind of heavy duty tonight, because I got Pundit here.
I don't.
Daniel,
it might get heavy duty. I'm just worried, like with the super chats. I feel bad. People pay money. I want to address what their comments are, but I feel like it might pull the topic all over the place. But you know what? Maybe that's just what's going to happen. But before I forget it, let me ask the follow-up question I had for Pundit.
Okay.
So when you say D&D, it sounds kind of like almost like not like maybe you mean it as like a slur or a dig.
Referencing the supercontinent.
Is it that you believe that the BROSR picked the wrong one, or that there is no D&D, that they're all equally valid?
I believe that there is that there isn't a single historical D&D that is the correct way to play, first of all, right? And what you can say is that D&D has certain, and this is the basis of the OSR, right? That D&D has certain elements to it that have to be present for it to be D&D, right? And not everything is that, right? Like, it's what you could call a landmark, right? That there are certain things you can have or not have, and it could still be D&D. And then there's other stuff that is pretty essential, and there's stuff also that you cannot put in and it still would be D&D, right? Like if you like switched the system to some kind of a dice pool, it's not D&D, it's a different RPG, right? That would be an example of that. So the D&D concept is based on this kind of notion that you have to find some kind of, that there was some pure version that was the perfect D&D, and everything after that is some kind of simulacrum, right? And that's not really that doesn't actually make any sense, you know.
So D&D is,
because even at the beginning you had Dave Arneson's group and Gary Gygax's group. They were playing two different games, right? Like they weren't the same rules.
Throne and
and other stuff.
And all that. Yeah.
By 75, you've got Tunnels and Trolls with Ken St. Andre. It's, I mean, that was kind of the underlying thing in Secrets of Blackmoor, was that the fundamental question was, we've got a role-playing game, right? The first one published is Dungeons and Dragons. And then immediately after that, we got all these other role-playing games. Well, they all have different rules, but they're all role-playing games. So there's an underlying component, which is the role-playing, which is the glue that holds the rules together.
Okay.
And I don't know, a lot of people probably missed that.
Well,
but it's
I think Jeffro made some folk mad when he said that D&D wasn't a role-playing game, that the first true role-playing game was Tunnels and Trolls. Before I get your take on that, I do have another super chat. Thank you, Robert Hawkins, for the $5. Robert would like to know, Pundit, what are you currently smoking, or will you reveal that at the end of the stream?
Well, I'm going to be smoking more than one pipe in this stream, I suspect. But I just finished this Bladder Diplomat. It's a Canadian pipe. And I was smoking Argento Roots in it.
All right. But that
nobody
in your
asked me
pipe
what
and
I'm
smoke
smoking,
it.
and I live in Denver. Like, we smoke a lot of things in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask what's in Griff's.
I got some over there if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Folder bloat says,
I don't
what
really do
rules
it.
can you remove from Monopoly and still pretend to be playing Monopoly?
Exactly.
And then
That's a totally
RW
different
Studios also says
concept,
Folder Bloat
right?
September.
Well, that's
Because
the thing.
that ignores the entire tradition, dating even back to wargaming, right? And to the origins of D&D specifically. Like, it's always this attempt to recreate the origins of D&D with the BROSR. They want to imagine that this was some kind of a perfectly crafted genius system that has to be run in a certain specific way, you know?
Give me a second here. Like this is one of those things that tends to get under my skin that I always jump on. Definitions matter for a reason. And a lot of the arguments end up coming down to people arguing different versions or different definitions of a term, and then people trying to redefine it many times mid-discussion, attempting to redefine the term in order to save their argument that's been defeated.
Right.
The simple fact of the matter is
on that cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah, the simple fact of the matter is, and this is probably not going to be the first time I do this, but I'm going to go right back to cars. We can sit here and say, what's the first car? And if you want to keep going back and chopping crap up, I'm going to have somebody who's telling me, well, you know, a chariot is the first car because it's a wheeled conveyance, or some kind of Stone Age cart is the first car. No, it's not. We can all pretty much agree that, like, the Daimler-Benz motor carriage is probably the first car. It has an internal combustion engine. It has a transmission. It goes through a drive axle. It turns the wheels, and it moves the car autonomously without the use of a living being to pull it. All right, we can start there. Or you can move forward and get to the point where you have to have what is like the modern definition of what we think of as a car, in which case you're going to have to start getting closer to not the Model T, but at least like the Model A or something of that nature. So when we sit here and fight back and forth all the time,
man, you lost me.
D&D. Well,
I'm right there with them.
The first D&D. You know what the first D&D is? The first D&D is the game that had Dungeons and Dragons stamped on it. That's the D&D. That's the beginning of D&D. It didn't come before that. If you call Appendix N D&D, you're an idiot because you're calling a horse and carriage a car. Okay? If you call chainmail D&D, you're an idiot because you're calling a horse and carriage a car. It was not D&D until it became Dungeons and Dragons. Chainmail may be a enclosed coach with wheels that got hooked into a motor and became a car, but it's not a car.
So you're saying the semantics don't really matter, that like they're
you got to have definitions,
planting their feet on a thing.
Well, the semantics matter, but people try to change the meaning of
you have to agree on the semantics. So like for instance, if you're using like say Professor Dungeon Master, when he says if you're rolling a D20, roll over the number, role-playing game, fantasy, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you can base stuff and we can have discussions off of that definition. But if I'm going to use that definition and Pundit is going to say it's only basic or it's only white box, and the BROSR is going to tell me it's only AD&D and it's not even the stuff that came before AD&D, we're not even having a discussion at that point because we're all talking about different things, and it just doesn't. It's unproductive and it makes no sense in any way. I do want to add one thing here that's kind of to the offside, because somebody did mention this wonderful term that I love in the chat. I do love when the BROSR sits here and likes to say PDF merchant as some kind of derisive term, like it's some kind of put down, when all they do is sit around like the sham wow guy holding up their PDF that they're trying to give away. And now all of them are holding up Jeff Rowe's new book. So it's like,
does he have a new book? Because I don't.
Yeah, he's got a new book. I'm sure. Well, this one also has B-dubs in it too. I don't know the third guy. Is it Phil?
Does Jeff Rowe even play D&D anymore? Like, does anybody see him or anything?
I certainly hope the third author did most of
the work. Too busy doing interpretive dance.
Because I mean, if you're not playing D&D like that other guy said,
Dunwallow for the $5 prerequisite, bro.
Where's your campaign? If he's not playing D&D, then he's just a tourist. I mean, do we even care what he says? You know, I mean,
that rule doesn't apply if you're in the BROSR. You don't have to show your.
I've been playing RPGs on and off since '77, so whatever, man.
Well, Driving Dragons was making an interesting point there about what you call stuff and what it is. The first thing, I brought it up because as someone who's trying to play this way, there is a lot of drag online. If you even say, hey, I'm trying to use these principles, a lot of people will come at you. And I feel like a lot of the criticisms are they contradict, and I don't get it, right? Like, so Driving in Dragons, my first example says he didn't create or develop anything. He copied and pasted. And then Pundit's like, no, he created everything. None of that was in the original. And by the way, there isn't an original.
Well, hang on. What I said was that
I've been staying quiet for a while. He go in there with something. Okay, go ahead.
He created something that he claimed was the original thing, but it's never the original thing. It's always his interpretation of that.
There is
thing.
no original thing. Is what
he uses. No, there was, like, Appendix N originally was a list of media that Gary Gygax found important, right? That he liked, right? And then Jeff Rowe comes along and he looks at it and says, oh no, this is like the code, the magic code to understanding D&D, right? And like, that's the bullshit. He adds the bullshit to something from the past, right? He's always looking back at something, right? Whether it's rules as written, whether it's one time, whatever. But then he makes an interpretation of it that nobody ever actually used in the old school period, in the real old school period, right?
But I was going to go with this is that
everyone's calling for Griff.
I asked Dunder Moose a while back, maybe like a year ago. I was like, does, like, Jeff Rowe Johnson says that, like, one of his great sources is Secrets of Blackmore. Well, that's the movie I made.
Exactly.
And so I said, are there any
And you guys should all watch it, by the way. If anybody's watching that hasn't watching now,
you're interrupting me. You're interrupting
I'm sorry.
me.
Go ahead.
I got a point to make here. So I said, well, that's great. Does he make any citations in his book? And you sent me a page. There's one page where he says something to the effect of, like, I got some of these ideas from Secrets of Blackmore. But then the book is however thick it is, but there's like a little sentence, right?
Yeah.
And anywhere where he's using an idea in an argument that comes from my film is actually plagiarism. Even if he said in the beginning, I got ideas from Secrets of Blackmore, that's not a very professional work. It's really sloppy, Well, so I expect everything he does is really sloppy like that. It's like what Pundit's saying. It's like, he says he's doing it the old way, but then he does it his way, but he tells you that he's doing it the right way. So maybe this is all garbage, and you're just like, look, you guys are just like gobbling up manure if you're a BROSR, and it's plagiarized manure. Like, if I really cared, I would go look and read his book, and I would find any place where it's like close to what I'm doing, and I would send him, I would send him a nasty letter. Like, his website is full of pictures he's stolen from my movie and my website, and there are no citations saying, like, image from on those images. I could literally just go, it would take me 15 minutes. You go and you do like an internet takedown notice, and you go and you say, this site is doing this bad thing. They're using copywritten material on their site without attribution, claiming that they have free right to use that, right? And they don't. They never ask permission. They don't give me a citation. This is really sloppy, stupid work. And they would, like, his whole site, like, you can go through his whole website. I've looked at it, and I could take down half that website because he's using stolen imagery. He doesn't use any citations or anything. And that's not made up stuff, because I do it a lot. People are always stealing crap from me from the movie and posting it without citations. And usually I send them a message and I say, hey, you're using something from my movie and I'm cool with that. I know you made the video, for instance, on YouTube. Can you just put a little comment in the video description saying, you know, some images were taken from Secrets of Blackmore. Here's a link to their site. And then I'm fine. I had a video that came out years ago that was like a history video. Those people got 100,000 likes on their video. Okay. They're like,
that's a lot.
It went kaboom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're not watching my movie. They're watching your crappy history on YouTube and you're using my images. So first I did that. And then they said, no, we're not breaking the rules because we're like, doing this thing. Well, I had to go do the thing and take down their video, and they had to re-edit it and remove my images because they didn't want to give me a citation. They could have still used them. I didn't say you can't use the images. I said, all I want is a fair use citation, right?
Okay. And it sounds like Driving
Jeff
and
Rowe
Dragons
hasn't done any of that, so he's like the sloppiest person I've ever met. And I haven't met him, but that's just garbage to me. So my respect for Jethro, or I call him Jethro. I don't call him Jeffro because he doesn't deserve to be called Jethro. Jethro. My respect for him is down off screen down there because the guy doesn't even
his name, but you're saying it wrong on purpose as disrespect.
Well, if he doesn't have any respect for me, he's stealing my images. Why should I respect him? He's an idiot. But in my own opinion, I think he's an idiot. Because any college student, first semester college student, first year, you take a essay writing class, right? And they tell you they teach you how to create citations for your essay so that somebody reads your essay. There are all these comments like so-and-so from blah, blah, blah. And then you can go to the end and you can find like a little bibliography, like that citation by so-and-so comes from this book. It was published here. It was produced by this publisher at this time.
All right,
if you look at Secrets of Blackmore, every single on-screen thing that I put in that movie, I have a list, an arm, like as long as my arm, I have a list of everything that goes on screen, what it is, who made it, what archive it came from, and when it was made.
And in the book, Blackmore Foundations.
And Blackmore Foundations. I got it right here. But yeah.
Look, I mean, the thing is, first off, How to Win at D&D, yes, it's very poorly cited. I mean, there's no doubt about that because he ain't great at it. There ain't no doubt about it. And it is very shoddy. But nothing in his book rises to the level where it would not get completely any claim against How to Win at D&D would be just slapped down by a fair use defense without trouble. But the thing about it is this is my problem with it. And I said this when I reviewed the book. I said, I made an apology to Ultra American TTRPGer because he did a stream where he basically went through the whole book, and then the publisher turned around and said, "Hey, we appreciate that you wanted to review our book, the Jeff Rowe's book, but you got to take it down because you essentially read the whole thing."
Yeah, he read it word for word on screen.
All right, here's the thing.
I got
on there. I got on there and I said, "Dude, you can't read the dude's book word for word. What the hell were you thinking?" Then when I went to review it, I'm like, dude, I owe you an apology because Jeff Rowe wrote about 4 sentences of this crap. He wrote about 4 sentences. It's like, how can you read it? I have to read all the original text to cite anything because everything else he lifted from somebody else's book.
And he doesn't cite anybody as a source except for
puts 2 sentences under it and calls it his thing. It's 35 pages of other people's work and 2 pages of Jeff Rowe bloviating. So I just have zero respect for How to Win at D&D.
You guys just did it to me again. You did it to me again. He doesn't write anything. He steals it. He made it all up. It's not there. What am I to do with that? How do I fit both of those in my head at the same time?
You have to apply critical thought. You have to use your brain.
Crap.
I'm probably the most
you are a critical thinker. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm the most BROSR friendly person here, which is kind of funny.
I think I take that title, actually.
Well, I mean,
you can be second.
Other than you, obviously. And there is something to be said here. The quote from my video that you put in to start this part of the conversation is actually from Intelligence as a Dump Stat, in which I deliberately overreact.
That is a legendary title
and
for your series,
overstate
by the
things.
way.
All right, I deliberately go way off the deep end on stuff because I'm mocking how people always go off the deep end over gaming stuff. I mean, it's literally satirical.
I don't think everybody understands how tongue-in-cheek it can be, though, right? Like, have you ever had people misunderstand that part of it?
Oh, we lost him. I lost him.
We lost your audio, bro.
My mic went off. Yeah, there's a lot of people who I get that all the time. Like, oh my God, you bastard! I can't believe you said this shit. Yo, who are you to talk like this about me? And then argue points in the comment section. And it's like, dude, did you miss the whole part where I pointed out that this is satire? I'm literally satirizing how people just go way off the deep end on some of this stuff. But I can sum up everything Pundit said in one very simple, being a Southerner, being the way I am, one very easy metaphor, simile, whatever you want to put it here, I can put it for you. Appendix N is that book or books, depending on how you look at it, that Gary Gygax kept on the back of his toilet and read. Jeffro came in and said, "Oh my God." Gygax, he basically came in and said, "Hey, that physics book that that Einstein kept in the bathroom for light reading is the secret to all of the theory of relativity." That's what he did. And the problem I have with the BROSR is not their play style. It's not how they actually find it pretty innovative in some ways, the way they use some of the rules. I think that there is a definite benefit to trying to be as strict to the literal rules as possible. It puts barriers in front of you that force you to play in a certain way, that make you think in different ways, that make you use the rules differently. And that's not a bad thing. It helps develop new play styles, even if that play style isn't necessarily the best. My issues with the BROSR is their idiotic assertion that it's the absolute best way to play and the only way to play right. It's the fact that they are pretty hypocritical in the way they change things all the time. I remember when I first came across the BROSR, AD&D first edition only, AD&D first edition only. There is no other anything. Call of Cthulhu's not even a game. And now it's, oh, did you see how crafty, do you see how Scudder for Mike is going to run a Call of Cthulhu Bronstein using BROSR stuff? BROSR, we're going to do BROSR Call of Cthulhu. When 3 years ago, we said it's not even a game.
That, you know what, that's fair. I've played in a bunch of what they call Bronsteins, and like it feels like I was learning a different rule set for every single one of them.
Bingo.
Right? Yeah, well, the problem is that's the thing. What they're calling
for things that
they're moving the goalposts
constantly.
What they're calling Bronsteins are not the way Bronsteins were run. Bronsteins were something specific, right? David Wesley. I'm sure that actually Griff would be able to be a better commentator on this than me, but they were things that you played in a night, right? They weren't like Jeffro wanted to get some backup for his theories of one time and decided to steal the word Bronstein and apply it to something completely different than what historical Bronsteins were.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that was my second question.
That's where I want to jump in.
Is the BROSR version of the Bronstein concept something they ripped off or something they made up? Because I've heard both. So go ahead.
This is me.
That's
because
you.
You guys, BROSR got so stinky. I came on your show and I said, look, you guys aren't playing a Bronstein, so quit calling it a Bronstein.
Yeah, and we called the episode, don't call it a Bronstein.
Don't call it Bronstein. Right? Yeah, and I was like, it's actually an own name. It belongs, it's David Wesley.
Don't call it
you guys are just idiots, and I said, like, what you're doing is Blackmore format play. Like, it's I don't care how you play, but just don't call it the wrong thing.
All right.
Because
Say
I'm
more
a historian.
about that, please.
I'm going to keep going with this because it's pretty interesting that, like, a lot of people play in Bronstein and they don't understand, like, how the game works. And so it begins the way David Wesley does it. It begins and he gives you, like, background, okay? A lot of people will be sitting there and they're like, when am I going to start playing? All he's doing is telling me like background and like he's telling me about the Kingdom of Prussia and like all this historical stuff, and that's boring. I want to play like D&D. And so they think that stage one, because there are 3 stages in the game.
Yeah.
Stage one of actual play is when David Wesley tells you what the world setting is. And it's a different place because not many people are familiar with like Prussia before the Napoleonic Wars.
Can I ask,
engulfed
as
that
a historian, did he
And
do
then-
that the first time he ran Braunstein, or were the players that he had already up to speed and he could get into stage 2?
They were all playing
Is that something
Napoleonics. They were all Napoleonic fanatics. They've been playing Napoleonic wargaming since 1965. He ran the first game at Christmas of 1968. They all had read all the major sources about Napoleon. They'd all watched all the movies. They played multiple rules, and then they invented their own rules. Like, they knew the time period. If you go through their fanzine, there's a whole article on prices for things based on gold coins, which is where D&D gets the gold coins, is from
interesting,
like 19th century pirate type motifs with, gold doubloons. And so they didn't really need that much background. I mean, he just explained to them like, this is the city of Braunstein. The people here are worried that the French are going to be coming because we were hearing rumors that the French are going to like wage war against our country. So we got to prepare for that. There are rumors, and he sets up like that. You're already playing the game when you're listening to him set up and give you all the information. And then he gives everybody their character, right? And so that's your motives and stuff. And people now, they because of Secrets of Blackmoor, they know more about the game than they should in a way. And so a lot of people play to win, and it's like you don't play to win, you just play to experience being in like the most amazing RPG you'll ever be in, because it's so different. A lot of people just play to like fulfill the contract. They metagame it, right?
Well, now, but you have
I've got
told
3
me
victory conditions. I'm going to meet my victory conditions, and I won at Braunstein. And it's like, yeah, but you have fun.
Didn't you tell me about how you, not the Braunstein one, the one that's
Banania.
You have come close to winning that sucker, right?
I've won. I mean, I didn't win, but I had a lot of fun. Like
Braunstein. Didn't Arneson win by like throwing out his pamphlets and flying off with a suitcase full of millions? And
and I won. I mean, I achieved my objectives by convincing everybody that there was a conspiracy to assassinate all the heads of the military, the 4 branches of military.
That's awesome.
And I mean, that was beautiful because I, have a meeting with them. I really need like I need a plane and a way to get out of your country. I'm the American in the game.
I would say that Arneson, when he won, he almost like did the Kobayashi Maru, right? Like he was making up documents ahead of the game and passing them out and stuff. You didn't do anything that shifty, did you?
No, I just lied a lot. But it was great because I was just I'd end the meeting with the person and I'd be like, oh, and you do know about the assassination plot to kill you, right? and they'd be like,
huh?
Yeah. And I'd be like, oh yeah, and they'd be like, where'd you hear that? It's like, oh, this is Banania. Rumors float around. Didn't you hear it? Like everybody else knows, right? But that's stage 2. Is you're running around, you're interacting with other players. The DM doesn't do anything hardly at all in the game. Only when you need the DM to adjudicate something does the DM come in. So you're just running around talking to people, bribing people, taking bribes, spying on people, eavesdropping, whatever. And so that's the middle part of the game. You play, and then at a certain point, the game the active play ends, and then you're at the conclusion. I mean, it's like a story, beginning, middle, end. At the end, everybody gets debriefed, and you find out all the stupid crap everybody else was doing. So it's like, the bank blew up. I didn't know what happened with that. And it's like, oh, you were the guy that did that. Suddenly you find out there's a middle guy and like 2 people that hate each other actually colluded on doing something bad. And they didn't.
Do you ever find that like the guy running it, the DM Dave, like he knows less than most of the players about what actually happened?
He can't keep up with everybody.
Yeah.
He got the last game he ran at Arnicon. He must have had like maybe 25. It was like the biggest one he'd ever run, maybe 25 players, something ridiculous. You got 25 people wandering around part of a hotel, talking to each other in corners and colluding and trying to do things. You got.
He's like, you're homeless guy number 4 because I'm all out of sheets.
But I mean, excuse me, but you know, other than the fact that it's largely done online and not at a hotel or, you know, LARPing, how is that any different than what the BROSR are what the BROSR are doing? Like the whole thing.
Well,
they've
got an active dungeon master.
Well, the thing is to talk about the BROSR, their play style, their philosophy, which I mean, and I think we kind of, in a way, even started off track here because bashing Jeffro is easy because he's a very easy target who has done a lot of things that are bash worthy. It's kind of like if I wanted to sit here and trash B-dubs. But the simple fact of the matter is that I look at the BROSR generally, and it's kind of funny because there's two main sects of BROSR that I see. There's the ones that take the shtick seriously and just get all up in arms about me and all butthurt. And then there's the ones that understand what I do and go back and forth with me. And we have ridiculous exchanges on X, and then we have like different, then we have like good conversations about gaming. And R-Dubs, I mean, of course, that's where R-Dubs goes because, I mean, he's repressed and he only hangs out with kids. I mean, you know, he's the one who hangs with no girl. I think you got some problems, R-Dubs, because you hang.
Let me get some more super chats in here before it jumps the rails too bad. Dungeoneer here, thanks for the $9.99. Says my experience of Wesley's BS1 and Banani at ArnieCon 3 were similar to other bro run Bronsteins. Having listened to Wesley after the game, I can see more differences in BS1 and bro games. So that you have it from someone who's played it, there are differences. Robert Hawkins, $5. Hey Griff, can you tell us more about the differences between Bronstein and Blackmore? Also, where is Domino? I don't know what that part of it means. I don't know.
Domino's my cat.
Oh,
okay. And Domino is now a year old, which means she's essentially the human equivalent of a teenager. And she is currently right now outside somewhere, probably committing acts of violence.
Probably. I woke up today and I went out on my porch and I had a dead bird there. My cat had brought me a sparrow. It was really cool.
Yeah. Domino hunted a bird a while back. It was great.
So I mean the difference. Well, I was going to lead up to these differences.
What the bros do is not properly called Bronstein. It's more like Blackmore. Is it really the case that the bros are playing D&D in the same way that Arneson used to in Blackmore? Is that true or not?
Well, that's the thing is like these things aren't pure. Like that's back to what Pundit was saying is like this battle cry of truth, you know, and it's like they're it's purity,
like, you know, of purity.
Bros turn it into like almost like a religious cult. Like I listen to people talk about Jethro, like angels sing and stuff like
the prophet,
and then Jethro said, and it's like Jethro wasn't even a twinkle in his daddy's eye when I started playing D&D. I don't even care who he is, you know. I don't follow what the BROSR do. I have most of them.
40 years argument.
You know, but it's true. It's just like, I mean, I'm friends with the guys who invented the stuff. I can get on the phone right now and talk to Wesley. I don't need to talk to the BROSR. I don't have to really prove anything, but I think you're stupid for calling something by the wrong name. And
not to mention that in Blackmore, like the BROSR are all about rules as written. Dave Arneson was anything but, you know, like.
There are hardly any rules in.
Well, yeah, he was before the rules, right? Like he was the idea.
Yeah. There are hardly any rules in Brownstein. The first time that Wesley ran it, you know, the combat that did happen was a surprise, and he made up rules for it on the spot. And Arneson was the first player killed in an RPG ever. You know, because he lost the duel.
Okay, but you guys see you see my problems though, right? With they made it all up. They actually innovated something versus they stole it. They didn't make up anything. I feel like there's so much contradiction, and I'm trying to figure out.
Let me try to give you another analogy to explain this, right? If you have, let's say, we're talking about let's say Amelia Earhart, right? Mm-hmm. And if you know, Amelia Earhart was a person. She did something. She flew. She was a famous female pilot in the 1930s, and then she vanished somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's all
pretty
historical
sure they know
fact.
where she vanished.
Yeah, well, that's all historical fact, right? Those are all
Right.
things that happened, and that is an account, right? Now, if you're a historian or a pseudo historian, and you start talking about how like Amelia Earhart was actually a
Abducted by
secret
aliens.
agent of the Illuminati, right? You are trying to you're making use of a historical event and then reworking it to fit your retroactive theories, right? That is what the BROSR does.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say about, like, because Daniel was asking about I think it was Daniel or somebody else was asking about the differences. But like, you know, in the Blackmore bunch, you have 3 stages for RPG. You have Brownstein. I mean, you really more, but as far as what most people would call an RPG, I think a war game with RPG traits is still an RPG, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. So
we'll have to do that on a sequel show.
Yeah, it starts with Brownstein, right? So that's in 1968, and then in 1969. Wesley runs like 4 different ones, and he's trying to figure out how to run it. And finally, he realizes it, like the way he ran it the first time is the way that works, because he just leaves the players alone to just create chaos, you know, and they just go off and they just go nuts, and that's what makes the game fun. And the game is designed like the one of the principles of that game in particular, which make it different from the next stage, which is Brownstone, Texas, is that there's the game is scenario based, and this is like a wargaming term. It's like most board war games of historical events are like scenario based. It's like we're going to play the Battle of Trafalgar or whatever. You're just going to reenact that battle and see if you can do better than the famous person that was there, right? So most battles last about a day, you know, old battles, okay? And so when you play in a Brownstein, you literally run off and play, and you're in flex time because time is being compressed and time is being expanded. You don't have to like sit out. My character wants to walk to a town 15 miles from town, so I've got to like sit here and do nothing for 20 minutes because my character's busy. You just do it, right? But at the end of the game, I mean, everything kind of evens out anyway between everything that everybody's doing, so time is kind of irrelevant. You're just doing stuff. But then the game ends, and the day has ended. Brownstein takes place in one day. It starts at like 9 a.m. and it ends at about 9 p.m.
Okay.
Banania same thing. Starts at about 9 a.m. ends at about 9 p.m. or when the city's on fire. Usually that's a good indicator that the game is ending, is when the whole city is on fire. And
it sounds like that one doesn't ever end peacefully, right?
Except for the game I played, and it ended peacefully because I convinced the military to not attack anyone because they were terrified of assassination.
You threatened them.
Okay,
let me catch up real quick. Hold that thought. $49.99 from Dungeoneer here. Thanks, bro. And oh my goodness, who do we have here? The man himself, Jeffro Johnson. He's been gone for a year. We are bringing him back to you. Fingers in the air.
I don't even know if it's him because I can't see who it is. Like, if you're going to hide behind an icon.
Are you guys kidding me right now?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. I don't want to talk to somebody who hides behind an icon. Are you going to show your face, or are you just going to hide out?
Claps in the chat. This just got wild, y'all.
It's going to get wilder because he's
have
just
you
such
been
a
watching
wimp that
this
he's not going to show his
What
face.
do you think about what they've said?
I got a great question for Jeffro. Did you write more than 100 words of your new book?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. No. I mean, I turned it all over to Thule and B-Dub. So.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on a show with Jeffro. I wasn't told ahead of time that I'd be on a show with Jeffro, so I will be seeing you guys. I'm done.
You're bailing, bro? Okay, I think we lost Griff. So I'm sorry. What was the question you asked, Daniel?
Oh, I just asked if Jeffro actually wrote more than 100 words of this book.
It was just some bad stare dunder, you know. Driving
he
and dragging
froze.
stuff.
He froze in a great position too.
Yeah, he did. I'm gonna give us some more room. If he shows back up, I will put him back on.
No,
the
I
stage.
wanted to ask Pundit. Like, I mean, could you just imagine? I mean, you remember back, from 2010 to 2020, the guy, the monster, the bête noire of RPGs. I think it was Ron Edwards. Ron Edwards was like, he took all the oxygen. He was just like this out there, this like off the wall position. But if he came back today and dipped into the discussion from like the past 5 years, I don't think he would know anything that anybody is talking about. That's how much RPGs have changed since he dipped out. And of course, he was there at the very beginning. I think he was the first person. He's the first PDF merchant, right? He's the first guy to put a PDF on the internet and sell it for money. So I don't know. What is your take on Ron Edwards? How would Ron Edwards do in the RPG environment of 2026?
Well, let me start by saying I'm quibbling here, but your timeline is a little bit off, because Ron Edwards, he started sometime around 1998, 99, something like that. And the first thing he produced, like, I know you guys love to talk about PDF merchants, right? Well, I've got multiple platinum bestsellers that sell in book format, But anyways, he did, before there was ever a PDF, he did a game called Sorcerer, which is not particularly good in any meaningful way, but it was the beginning of what later he developed into his theory of story gaming, right? Of GNS theory and all that. And his peak period was actually from about 2001 until about 2008, was it, when the Forge shut down because he declared that he had saved RPGs or something like that, and therefore his forum was shutting down. And then he petered out. He just vanished, right? Like, story gaming kept on without him for a bit, and then they petered out too. But actually, we kind of know how it went for Ron Edwards, because he tried to make a comeback around 2015, 2016, where he came back into the area of the hobby and tried to reinvent himself by claiming that he had been a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons all along, and old school gaming is wonderful. He wanted to make his way into the OSR, and
he did. He had essays in Fight On magazine.
Yeah, he tried to do a little bit, but I never let anyone forget what he really was, and then he left again. So
well, I mean, he's the prophet he's a failed prophet. He's a failed experiment, is what he is. I'm not the historian here. All right. I look at everything just kind of in a very realistic, what is your work product type deal. But he basically brought in his own fetish work, and he built into Sorcerer and into some of his later books a whole bunch of garbage that was essentially about how to abuse the shit out of your players and get them to agree to it. He's also the birthplace. He is the genesis of the safety tools, what I call toxic player agency. And ironically, even though from what I understand of the man, this is the opposite point of his little triangle, he's responsible for 4E. Because the fact of the matter is he wanted at least as far as I understand, once again, I'm not the historian here. From what I understand, he wanted nothing but narrative, because it also allowed a lot more leeway for him to be a ridiculous piece of fetishistic crap. But that was what he really idealized. But when Wizards of the Coast needed, how can we put WoW on a tabletop, he went to the extreme gamist end and was in some way involved in the creation of 4th edition, which almost killed.
Well, he was the inspiration for the completely different system that was 4E, because he had in the Forge, the principal theory of Forge play was what he called GNS theory, which he suggested that there's actually 3 different kinds of role playing, and they're incompatible with each other, right? And so every game should only be one of these 3 things, either gamist, narrativist or simulationist, as he called it, right?
It's a bastard. It's a
at the same,
version of the three pillars.
yeah, and in fact, he completely denied the reality of emulation and immersion, right, which are actually the important main goal of the RPG experience. So when 3 was done, the guys that designed 4E were fans of the concept of GNS play, and of course they decided that D&D should be the gamest game, right? Because that is that's what Ron Edwards always argued D&D should be, right? And they said, well, if so, his theories are so wonderful, it's going to be a huge success. I predicted at the moment that 4E came out that it was going to lose 2/3 of its audience, and that's exactly what happened. That's why they hired me to be the philosophical background, let's say, for 5th edition. And it became the best-selling edition of D&D of all time. We know that for a fact now because the sales figures have come out on that. They were leaked, and it just blew away every other edition, including 1st edition, including mold, everything. Right? Like it was the best-selling edition ever. I'm not saying it's a great edition to play. I don't play it myself, but I designed it in the way that it was going to become a bestseller.
So what you're saying is your Apocalypse. We're going to use a comic book reference here. Your Apocalypse, you gave WotC the techno-organic virus that infected the entire hobby and is giving us all these
I do acknowledge that. Now, mind you, it only really went bad after the people that actually designed it were all gone, right?
Yeah.
But
now,
fair enough, because it's like all the people who were part of that design team dropped like flies before they even started releasing supplements.
So let's go back. Let's do it. So Ron Edwards has this view of RPGs that you can do narrativist, gamist, simulationist, and that was talked to death. I can see people in the chat that are like, "No, please don't talk about it." And I feel you. I love the OSR bloggers coming in and are like, this is a bunch of baloney, right? Which is sad because, Ron Edwards, he had these great essays on system matters, right? And like, I think he had a point there, like that the system you play will influence the type of games that you have. He's like, he started good, but I feel like and I'm sorry he's not here to defend himself. Could you imagine like a bunch of people getting together to trash you like constantly, like as hard as they could, and they're not there
before you got Jeffro, before you got here, Jeffro, we were supposed to be trashing you, right?
We're trying to change the subject just in a minute. If you give me a minute, I fully intend on continuing to trash you once we get back to talking about
Great.
I understand, though. I get why you agree with system matters, except that you're basically the opposite end of the idiot spectrum here, because his argument was that system is the only thing that matters and it should be used to make unique micro games, right? Your argument is that only one system ever matters, and it's whatever system you are currently a fan of, because that has changed over time, right? The system that you thought mattered in 2013 is different than the system you think matters now, but you keep trying to retroactively pretend that it's all the same thing.
Okay. All right. So can I talk now? Can I have a turn, please? And Daniel, please, some of your bombastic framing of the things, to leaven things up. I mean, it's getting a little bit tense in here, right? I need your help late, but not right now. Not right now. Let me just say, Ron Edwards would not recognize the RPG discussion space of today if he came back again. He would not, because he did not anticipate the implications of Braunstein being stumbled upon and leveraged to solve problems within the RPG space. And I'm going to make a claim about Braunstein play that the Forge was never ever going to come to, because it just never was going to happen. The OSR was never going to figure it out either, because they were hung up on BX, and the insights and rules that you need to open this up were not in that edition, or anyone that derived rule set from that edition. So I'm wrapping up. I know I digress, but I'm gonna say Bronstein play synthesizes the threads of narrativism, gamism, and simulationism in a very surprising way. If you're in a Bronstein style RPG campaign, if Griff were here, he would probably call it a Blackmore. I think has been a thing with him. But whatever you call it,
I wish he hadn't left. This could have got good, man.
Whatever you call it, I'm going to say my conclusion, and I'll let everybody talk. I'm going to say my conclusion. I'll let everybody talk. But in a Bronstein, you can set them up very easily to simulate a very large range of situations. You can play it as if it were a game. You don't have to lean into the 1 hour long Prussian history lesson. You could just play it as a game. That's an option as well. And then the stories that people tell when they come onto a Dunder Moose show to give the after action reports, there are really complex narratives that derive from this style of play. And I will cite as just one example, Serious DM's Drakkenheim campaign has the most complex emergent RPG narrative that has ever been documented anywhere. So I'm just going to throw that out there for our guests to discuss. But thank you for coming, guys. It's been a blast seeing the gang together again, especially this particular gang. It was great. It was so awesome.
Again for the first time.
Yeah, it's fun to meet you.
No. I mean, we did inappropriate characters. We turned the internet upside down on inappropriate characters. I do have to ask
you though. Do you have a doctor handy to relocate your shoulder after patting yourself on the back about Bronstein having the effect you seem to think it's had on the modern discourse of gaming? It has a minute impact on a very small niche of a very small niche hobby. And Shadow Dark blew everything the BROSR ever thought about pretending to be away in the span of a month.
Absolutely.
In terms of conversation in the gaming space. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I would even argue.
Are you talking about Are you talking about the designer of the most important, significant, independent RPG who is familiar with my work and is looking out for a way to leverage it? Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah, she might actually be adding some of that in, but that's not what she built it off of. And I would even argue that I've had more independent.
She's been passing how to win around to her friends.
I've had more independent conversations about pundits' work than anything from the BROSR.
Well, for sure.
All right, that's the honest truth, and I'm talking completely independent.
But I wasn't talking about a popularity contest or even sales numbers. I was talking about the theory stuff. But the Forge was working on was just so completely overshadowed and made irrelevant by the findings of the BROSR. That conversation, it was already dead, but it's like I'm
glad that you're identifying yourself.
White box from the basic expert than there's been about anything the BROSR's done in recent memory.
Dude, your whole channel is about the BROSR, Daniel.
No, I make fun of the yeah, and you know what? There's your proof right there. How many subscribers do I have?
I mean, not that I got a whole ton more than you do, right?
That's what you hold up. I'm sorry, Deathbringer is going to have more discussion than the BROSR. No, here's the thing.
Tell us, Pundit. Tell us.
Go ahead.
Look, I'm glad to hear that you're acknowledging that you're essentially the bizarro version of Ron Edwards. I mean, that's good. And I'm glad that you find an interest in what you've invented that you're calling a Bronstein, right? That is not related to what was actually originally a Bronstein. But nobody outside of the BROSR talks about it. You know, like you're suggesting a level of influence that doesn't exist anywhere. You know.
Okay. Can I answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. How many people have either openly taken BROSR findings and then cut videos pretending that this was their original work? I mean, Griff was just talking about that. I feel him, man, because I feel like people have done that to me a few times. I don't want to name names per se, but just this past week, of course, I'm looking at what's going on just this past week Let me tell you about this guy. I'm going to mention him because I think he's doing good work for what he's doing. I think what he's doing over there, it's as if he looked at the BROSR stuff and said, okay, let's say they were right, and let's say this is a good way to run games, and let's say this can make people's games run better, but I don't want to go all the way with the BROSR stuff, and I don't want to join Jeffro's religious cult. Okay? How could I abstract stuff out from this and then present this to people so that people that run more narrativistic, modern, contemporary 5e style campaigns could benefit from it? And so what he did, he's recently done a series on...
Who are you talking about?
Can I? I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. I'll wrap it up. I know I digress almost as much as you, but just let me wrap it up. But he's doing a show series right now on adding clocks to the game, timers to the game, having independent factions added to the game, and then orchestrating these things in order to produce a living world. The sense of a living world for the players to interact in. And it's very, I think it's pretty clear that he's been paying attention to what's going on over in the BROSR side. Another guy I'll give as an example is Tenkar's Tavern has just this past week.
Name the first guy. Who was the first guy that you're talking about?
It's his channel name is Earth Moat.
Never.
And now I'm gonna introduce Tenkar's Tavern deal now, and then I'll be quiet for a little bit, let you guys have a say. But Tenkar's Tavern this week, somehow he has gotten on to downtime and having time pass between your visits to the dungeon. This is suddenly or recently of interest to him, and he's been developing some random tables to use for the players to use with their downtime action with their trips in town to make it, I don't know. It seems like an OSR remixing of BROSR material into an OSR style of thinking. It's what it looks like to me. So now these guys are not small. They have pretty large number of channel subscribers, and they're obviously talking about the games, and they're very excited about this, and they have something new to talk about. And I just very humbly would like to suggest that it's because of the efforts of not just me, but the entire BROSR, that you have people following up on this particular tack in a very not ambitious, but there's certainly a little bit of energy here.
Well, I mean, none of the stuff that you are taking credit for is something that you originally presented. Like, you know, the Bronsteins were talked about long before you decided that was the new thing to use for your cult. The West Marches campaign style is essentially a lot of what is actually being talked about, you know, which was something that was around since what, 2006, 7. I mean, you can try to claim that this is all coming from the BROSR. Maybe some of it is. Again, I don't even recognize the first guy you mentioned. Tenkar is a guy who's been around forever, and I guarantee you that he knows everything about Bronsteins long before you decided to invent your version of Bronsteins, you know. And I mean, you're I think that, again, you're an expert at taking claim for stuff that you can apply retroactively.
All right. Okay.
I got to say something real quick. I know I'm like the lightweight in this room right now, but the BROSR is where I heard about this stuff. Nobody was helping me with my game until I heard about what Jeffro was doing, and I immediately started getting benefits from it in the types of games I was playing and running and the way I was thinking about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm going to let the big guys talk.
So okay. Can I answer back one thing before Daniel goes?
This is my perspective on it. As far as BROSR play principles, play style, I guess you could say game theory, even though they apparently now recently like to trash on theory crafting, even though that's entirely what they do, is they theory craft and put it in practice. And they don't even really theory craft. They look at old theories and bring them back and try to make them work, which I'm going to say right here, I have a respect for that. I have a respect for going back and saying, hey, here's this thing that everybody left behind because it didn't work the way they needed it to. Let's see if we can actually make it work this way. That's part of the BROSR.
If they were honest about it, that would be okay. Sure. Yeah. If they were honest about it.
That's my problem. My issue is the lack of honesty and a large amount of hypocrisy. Now, some of that comes from the shtick. Okay. Some of it comes from the shtick. I understand it. I play off of it. I go back and forth with the shtick because it's fun. And the ones who know who they are, they know that I go back and forth with them, and then we can just talk like normal human beings off to the side about something else or about gaming. But we're going to have the shtick too, and they laugh when I make fun of them, and then they make fun of me, and then I make fun of them, and it's all great. But the simple fact of the matter here is when you have somebody like me, like I went out of the hobby, at least out of any public sense of the hobby, for about a decade. I was still playing, still running games, but I'm sitting here running D&D 3.5, running Cyberpunk, and running Call of Cthulhu, and just doing my thing. And I'm not paying attention to the Forge. I'm not paying attention to what's going on online or anything like that. And I'm gone for about 10 years. I come back and I get on X and I see this BROSR group. And I'm like, hey, they're talking about some stuff that I had guys in game shops that we used to talk about. Even if it was just an archaic rule discussion or some of it I'd even tried. I had used one-to-one time before. And the bros who are honest can tell you, they're like, well, at least of all the people who bash on the BROSR, at least Daniel knows how the damn mechanic works and doesn't make up BS about bathroom breaks and stuff. So
you're from Alabama. You're from Alabama. That goes a long way with us.
Yeah. I'm not from Alabama. I'm from Louisiana. I just live in Alabama. Don't lump me in with them Bammers.
Thanks, ear trumpet.
Oh, whether you ruined it, I don't like you anymore.
But anyway, so I look at it and I'm like, there's a lot of good Petri dish in there. I absolutely detest the credit claiming. And what's worse is because there's many of them that it's like there is no turning off of the stick. Or you can kind of tell that they believe the shtick. And I'm like, when you start smelling your own farts and telling yourself it smells good, I don't have any use for you anymore. And it's obnoxious because what good could be brought, what development could be brought into the greater hobby is instead turned into a war against everybody else because they're too busy being like, why do we want to deal with these ass wagons? One thing that did piss me off, and it sounds kind of white knight-ish and whatnot, is Harmony Ginger came out and probably brought more light to the Bronstein thing than the entire BROSR combined in an instant. Yeah, it's because she's a girl. She would probably admit that herself. Now, she is very good at it. She didn't come at it from she ain't out here saying, you know, I'm going to talk about Bronstein. You know, that's not how she does her thing. But more people paid attention to her. And I sit here and look at it, it's like, yo, fuck you. It's a boys club. I'm sorry. I don't want to demonetize your stream here. Oh no, you're
not monetized yet. I'm too small. This is boys club only. No girls allowed. And, even some of them kind of half-ass trashing Harmony. And I'm like, this is somebody who has come in arms open, very open to learning what you're giving us, trying to adopt your play style. And if it had been anybody but her with her particular personality, you probably would have just run her off and she'd been like, yeah, that kind of play style sucks ass. I'm going to play something else. All right. Because of some of the reaction that was in there. And I'm like, you want the credit and you can't say, you know what, that person did it better. They got our message out there. Let's embrace that. And you can't say, well, hey, yeah, your play style is fine, but I think if you augmented this piece of our play style into how you do it, it'll be even better. Did you try this? No, it's you didn't do everything 100,000% the way we do it.
So you're just garbage, soup aisle, blah, 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 retarded nonsense that BROSR spews. And it's like, congratulations, what goods you've brought, you've completely run into the ground. And you look at it, if you look at it as somebody like me who would like to see a healthy, thriving community of more games, more things out there, of people coming in and say maybe rising up to kind of challenge it.
No, well,
that's typical R-dubs, of course. Yeah, like I said, we all know R-dubs. I mean, he's just really frustrated. I mean, Lubriderm's on sale at CVS, buddy. So, the simple fact of the matter is like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, soup aisle. You know why I have a soup aisle? Because I own the damn grocery store. Y'all are all working for me. But the fact of the matter is that I think that if the BROSR weren't so, like, it's funny because Basic Expert's in chat and, he and I butt heads all the time, but he said something, and I take it sincerely that he meant it when he said that, everything should start from the position of rules as written, right? Before you start changing anything, before you start trying to use Rule 0 or anything, before you start altering things, you should understand the mechanics of the way it works. Right. And I can take that presentation. What I can't take is the presentation of, oh, no, you're garbage and trash because you changed something to work better for the way that for the goals of your table or the goals of the way you want to adjust the game. When we bring that to the public sphere,
we get it.
Yeah. No offense, Daniel. Nobody's here to see you and me. They're here for Jeffro.
I want to take it back to something that I want to take this back to something that Pundit introduced earlier in the show that I thought was really on point because it is exactly how I view things and have articulated things. Thank you, Pundit. I'm going to get to that in a second, though. Okay. But Daniel, we there's two things going on. One is we don't want people to like us, and we don't want to be a part of the RPG hobby, and we don't like the OSR either. We don't like the PDF merchants of the OSR. We think it's all fake. We don't think there's any real games going on there at all. And now let me tell you
what way is it fake?
That has to do with your exact point that I'm going to get to in just a second. I'm going to try not to digress. I know that people dislike it when I go off on a tangent, but I'm going to try to hold it together. I'm not going to use any metaphors at all. But when we started playing D&D in a different way in 2020, we basically brought a lost piece of culture back from oblivion. We brought something back that no one was familiar with. Now you know,
rephrase that without trying to make yourself sound like you're a goddamn Christ figure, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
okay, that's
the prophet at work. Yeah,
I like your bombastic, funny stuff on Driving and Dragons, but like, bro, it's an academic point. It's an intellectual and cultural academic point. I'm not saying I'm not saying that you're a bad person because you're bad at D&D. Okay, I don't care about that. So can you calm down?
Not bad at D&D. That's the problem. Is that your ass doesn't understand that there's different goals for play of D&D.
Yeah, and that there always was, right? Like the old.
Simply because it's yours, despite the fact that the majority, everybody abandoned it for a reason, because it didn't work for most.
The BROSR looks nothing like what people did in the actual old school period. If anything, the OSR looks much more like it, because in the old school period, everybody was experimenting with new designs and with new concepts, you know? And I agree, you know, Driving and Dragons made a very clear point, and it's something I say in my videos where I like advise people who want to try to publish their own game or something, that you have to really understand the rules of the game, so that you can understand how to adapt those rules, right? But the difference is the BROSR says no, you have to understand the rules so that you only do the rules the way Jeffro told you to do them, you know, like that, which is which is a pointless cul-de-sac in the world of design, right? And,
especially when they change their mind about what their interpretation is.
It's the prophet's word until the next word comes and it rearranges the whole religion. Yeah.
Okay. AD&D only until it's
emotionally reacting. Are you done emotionally reacting?
That's not an emotional reaction.
That's not an emotional reaction. It's a statement of fact.
Flat out said,
you guys are very animated. You're very upset. Please calm down. This is like arguing.
None of us are upset.
Okay.
None of us are upset. I'm speaking forcefully because unfortunately you've got 12 people talking or 4 people talking at the same time. It's not an emotional point. The simple is a forceful point. There's a rampant history of easily sourced hypocrisy where you say one thing and 6 months later you turn around and say, no, it's always been this opposite thing.
You are so mad you can't listen to what I have to say.
I listened to what you say. Now, would you please say it in terms that have a little humility instead of I went to the mountain.
People can come on my show and talk how they want
how to play D&D.
We're not going to tone police. People can talk. I haven't done it to you. I haven't done it to Pundit. I haven't done it to Jeffro. People say it how you want to say it. Full chested is fine here.
Wait. Do you have any idea how nasty some of the things people have said about me in this show are so far? And
I'm sure.
And no way, I'm the one that's not saying things in the right way. Are you serious?
I'm not saying
you're talking about hypocrisy now.
Listen,
really, you really want this is really where you want to be.
Well, Jeffro, facts don't care about your feelings.
Okay.
Look, we're not talking about that. Deliver an actual point about the BROSR that doesn't start off with the burning bush told you how Gary Gygax wanted the game played. Okay, do it in make a succinct point here, because that's the way everything has started off with. Is in the great woebegone in the ancient days when they came down and they handed me the prophecy.
You can't ask for him to make a succinct point and then filibuster. So you got to give him a shot. You got to let him redress it.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay. So earlier in the show, RPGPundit, my esteemed colleague in all things RPGs, made a claim that D&D has certain qualities, and there's things that if you change them, you can change these things, and then it ceases to be D&D, right? Do we agree that he said something to that effect, and that we all are kind of like that's reasonable? Correct. Yes. Okay. So I would assert that basic D&D, Mold Bay Basic and Cook Marsh Expert, just as an example, they're not a version of D&D. They're a separate game altogether, in the same way that 4th edition D&D was a new game altogether. Well, right? Which version is the original now? Because at one point you were saying it was 1st edition, then you said it was or D&D, and that then you say it's Bronstein's. Like you're changing the rules constantly. Okay, but wait, do I have you so far? Do I have you so far? That basic D&D people are have a feeling that like let's bring back James Malasiewski just as an example. They say, oh, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was too hard for me, but when I was a kid, I played basic D&D, either Holmes or Mold Bay or Minster. But those Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books were on the market, and we didn't really play that game. We played basic D&D, but with extra monsters and magic items taken from AD&D. But we, if the actual rules of what we were playing, the game that we were playing was really basic, though. Now, that's a very common frame. Do you agree that that's a reasonable experience for a lot of people that grew up in the 80s? Well, the problem is your context of it. Like, I'm not sure if I'm not the only one here left, because Griff took off, who was actually playing in
the old school era. When I started playing,
that was a yes or no question. That was a yes or
no. Hang on, because you're inventing something that is different than what it really was like.
I
was there.
I was citing one person's claim. I'm not saying it was universal, but this is certainly not uncommon. Can you handle that?
There may be one or two people who, there may be many people who had that particular experience. However, there are several other experiences that also happened. And
right, but let's point out that in the old school period, first of all, there was almost nobody who was playing the game the way you dictate that it should be played, which is strict rules as written, right? That was not an aspect of old school play. Old school play was about mixing and matching creativity. And when I say that there are certain, because you didn't quote me completely, I said that with D&D there are certain landmarks that if you take those out, it's not D&D anymore. And there's other stuff that you can change. And in fact, whether you like it or not, the model that ended up being not entirely, but the closest one that was the most definitively essential of the core of what D&D became is the basic expert rules. It wasn't AD&D, because AD&D was also never created to be that way. It was just a collection of rules that Gygax threw together from a number of magazines and from other stuff for the dual reasons of screwing Arneson out of his money and creating a set of defined rules for tournament play. And he never ran it, and you know that.
Okay. What you see the OSR, then you're telling me the goal of the OSR is to recreate the play styles as RPGs were actually played more or less in the 70s and 80s, things about that time period. You're trying
with the context
how it was actually done. Is that true?
Well, okay, that is with the context that the thing that was really happening in the old school era is that people were innovating, right? And the innovation became less over time as people went out and started making games that were nothing related to D&D. And in the early old school era, what you had was a bunch of people, like starting with stuff like Arduin, right, that were variants of D&D. And the second and third wave of the OSR are specifically a continuation of that concept that was how people actually were playing and designing games in the early old school era.
Okay, so so there's no element. Okay, I don't even quite know what we're arguing about anymore. But D&D, but D&D. Now I'm just going to go head on into the point. There are things that make D&D D&D, and if you take certain things out, it will cease to be D&D. Do we agree with that statement?
Yeah,
I can agree with that statement in a broad sense, yes.
Okay, all right. So then this is the claim of the BROSR. This is where we disagree about basically everything. I think we found it. My claim is specifically that the D&D rules, if you take out the timekeeping rules of 1 real week equals a game week or something to that effect. If you take out the Bronstein play whereby people, when they get to named level, will have strongholds and then fight battles with other people that have strongholds. Okay. And if you take out the Bronstein play style that necessarily is required in order to execute that type of game, and if you take out the interpretation of the AD&D or the OD&D wargaming rules, just the vanilla D&D combat rules where you can scale up and handle a mixed battle of, say, 300 brigands with leveled fighters and leveled magic users combating each other. If you remove those pillars of the game, then you get a fundamentally different game. And that fundamentally different game is the one that everybody played, because there are many, 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 many more people who will play an RPG without those pillars of play than there are who will play the game as it was actually designed and conceived of. And I'm talking specifically about OD&D and AD&D have these 4 pillars, and most RPGs after the 70s do not. And I'm saying, and this is the difference between
how many of those pillars. Hold on, how many of those pillars were either explicitly or implicitly listed as optional or variants?
In AD&D, those rules are all listed in all caps. So
they may be listed in all caps. I said optional, variant, and does it not say in the self-same book that the DM is to alter, change, omit, or add in order?
But Gary assumed he was talking to equals.
Tables.
Gary assumed he was talking to an. I don't think
you can't sit here and say you're not qualified to make the change. No. Does the book say that? Because the book says you can do it.
Daniel,
rule was written.
It did.
Daniel,
it did, but in a way that's kind of not the point. If you don't mind my saying.
Well, no, you're only the most low-level reading of the AD&D rules will allow you to come to that conclusion.
Says the guy who says all caps is what makes my point.
Well,
hang on. So
Gary was as emphatic as you are in this show. He was yelling at the reader.
Here's the problem, right? Is that what you're saying? You're taking a personal conceit and applying that to try to be a universal. How do we define what is meant to be D&D? You're talking about rules that were discarded by the people that made the rules, by like the basic expert rules were published by hang on. They were published by TSR while Gary was still in charge of TSR, right? And the only real judgment you can make of what is old school D&D, it ends up being what ended up how people actually played it, right? Because otherwise, all you're doing, your argument, Jeffro, is that you're taking Tanstoffel and saying this is the one true way to play chess, even though nobody plays chess that way, right? That is what your argument amounts to. It is a personal conceit that you're trying to transform into a universal.
Absolutely, and you cannot ignore. You can't sit here and say that your basis is that this is what's written in the black and white of the rules, and then ignore the black and white of the rules that explicitly says that you are allowed to change it. And you can't sit here and say, well, that assumes this and that assumes that. Well, guess what? No. So does your stuff. Your stuff assumes things too.
No, Daniel.
You know what? There's more than, hold on. There's more than just one-to-one time in there as well. So which one is the one true way rule is written? He says, this is the preferred way. One-to-one is probably best, but he also mentions other strict timekeeping. And he says that strict timekeeping is appropriate for campaigns, using campaign in the language of the time as opposed to the language we use these days, but in the language of the time for campaigns. But if he's sitting here and literally telling you there's multiple ways to do it, and you're advocating that there's only one correct way, you cannot sit here and say that your basis is the black and white of what's in the book, and then ignore the black and white of what's in the book, or alter or interpret or change what is in the black and white of the book 10, 15, 20 pages later. You can't do it. That's not a logical position. Now, I agree with you in a way. I agree that you really should understand the game before you try to change it to optimize it for what you're doing. You shouldn't just go make changes for no reason.
I've said that many times on videos advising people on game design.
Exactly. However, you can't sit here and say that this black and white is black and white and this black and white is how I decide to interpret it, or I decide who it was meant for. If it was only meant for certain people, Gary would have said, now, if you happen to be Jeffro Johnson, you can use this rule. It would have been written there. It would have been spelled out. If you've played X number of sessions with the one-to-one timekeeping rule, then you are allowed to make alterations for your table. That would have been written in the black and white as well, if that's what was meant based on your own logic.
Yeah. Well, I don't care how people...
That's a fine position. Just don't tell other people they're wrong when they're not, based on your own logic.
Okay.
I have to wonder if like Jeffro goes. I have to wonder if Jeffro goes to these.
May I please?
Please explain
you
why
don't have a show, Dunder.
Look, I have to wonder if Jeffro goes to the swing class and starts doing jazz tap and claims that that's the true swing class, you know?
No.
All right, let him talk or I'll start muting.
I don't care how people played these games wrong in the 70s and 80s. I think most people looked at these rules and they did not understand them. As an example of someone in print that we have that did not understand D&D at all and was very frustrated with how expensive it was and how strange it was. Ken St. Andre did not understand what D&D was or how it was meant to be played. He was not alone. He was absolutely not alone. Honestly, in the 80s, people were teenagers. All right. They were not going to take a game that was created by hardcore war gamers that had 50 people coming over their house to play games on the sand table every week, every day. They were not going to like leap into that culture just from getting a few rule books. Okay. To reconstruct how these rules were intended to be played, we needed a lot of things going in our direction. For one thing, we needed 20 years of the OSR researching the nature of these rules and raising questions about it, which the BROSR built directly on. But the other thing that we needed, may I? This is a very big question. May I? The other thing we needed was time to actually give the rule text a chance. And the lockdowns of 2020 gave us that. The technology of playing online, of Discord servers and ubiquitous communications gave us the ability to recreate the amount of social interaction and the social contacts that the creators of AD&D and OD&D took for granted as being the norm for these types of games to be played in. So that's why nobody talked about this. And that's also why nobody played the game that we did. So we took the all caps rules that everybody, to my knowledge, ignored, both when they were kids and both when they became OSR bloggers in the 2000s and 2010s. And we took those and we tried them out. And what we found was a fundamentally different game than every RPG session we had ever participated in or heard of people participating in. And that's really why we wrote Winning Secrets and have a Kickstarter right now. I hope you both buy a copy and enjoy it. But that's it.
Okay, are you done? Can I answer now? Because I don't know why you bring up Ken St. Andre when there's a much better example of someone who didn't get D&D according to you. Gary Gygax. He never played the way you played. Your entire argument is that you have discovered something that nobody, even the creator of D&D, ever understood, and this is the only true way to play.
That is such a weak argument. I hope you keep using it.
What better argument is there than saying that the creator of D&D never played? He never played AD&D first edition rules as written. We know that. Everybody who gamed with him has said so.
Right. Then we made history.
You're inventing something.
To play that game. We're the first group to play that game. Not even Gary could play it. We were the first people who had the audacity to try it. Which
means that it's something you invented. It's something in your head that you're trying to claim is the only one true way.
Well, we did.
It's great that you've got your little gang of sycophants, but that doesn't.
But that
doesn't make you right.
You made everything. You made nothing. You invented it. Like
it doesn't matter who played what way here. Now there is evidence that because Gary played it the way he played it, that lends far more credibility to the idea that you are supposed to alter it to fit your table because he ran it that way to fit his table. I would argue that there are plenty of people who did play it the way you play it. You just don't know them, and they didn't ever have a Twitter account because it didn't exist, and they didn't ever make a book about it, And
how do you
they
know that
played
they're
it
there
when
then?
they were kids, and then they stopped playing D&D, and they grew up and they went out and have lives, and now they don't ever think about D&D anymore, except for when their kids find their books in the attic.
No, someone needed to present this theory. No.
Hold on. I guarantee you there's people who played it rules is written. And I can't say that with D&D because AD&D was not my thing. I can say it with other games because when I found old things, old games in the attic and whatnot, I read the rules. And when my brothers and I wanted to play it, we played it as strict to the rules as we possibly could, no matter what it was, because they're rules and we're supposed to follow them. All right. The point is, though, and this is where the Gary didn't play that way. I'm not a big fan of the Gary didn't play that way argument, simply because it's an appeal to authority. But it is a very
everything Johnson does is an appeal to authority.
It's true.
That's authority that he then puts on Gary Gygax.
Yeah, my point is when you look at all the people who were involved, each one of them played different ways. But they all played in a way where their game was altered slightly from the core to fit the needs of that particular table, which tells me the correct way to play is to understand the rules, understand how they work, and then make reasoned adjustments to fit exactly what you want.
And you never did that.
Oh,
I'd like to address something to Dunder Moose, if I may.
I have one sentence. I'll let you go. I have one sentence and I'll let you go. You never learned the implications of 1-to-1 time, 1-10 scaling, Bronstein play, and those pillars of play that I'm specifically talking about. No one looked at those and then decided, oh, that's not for me. So they changed the rules.
When was the first time I ran a 1-to-1 time game, Jeffro? Can you answer that question for me? When was the first time I ran a game in 1-to-1?
Anybody answer that question? Why did you keep it to yourself?
Hold on. I just want him to answer the question because his supposition is that if I played it that way, then I'd only play it that way. So I'm asking him, when's the first time I did it?
When's the first time you did it?
When is the first time that I used strict 1-to-1 timekeeping?
I said all of the pillars. The pillars of play. I said there's a list of pillars.
The current version of the pillars, because in 6 months he's going to have another one. He's going to rewrite the entire Quran again.
No, man. If that one also transforms the game, I hope
I'm running a 1-to-1 time game right now. Okay, I am. I'm running a 1-to-1 Cyberpunk game because honestly, I think 1-to-1 time works better in Cyberpunk than it does in D&D because it's a mission-based game. You have lots of mechanics that are built into it that require characters to be in the hospital for 6 months because they got shot.
Okay.
It works.
Daniel,
but hold on. You make a supposition about you. If you play it this way, you'll never play it any other way. But your assumption is that people didn't and didn't walk away from it.
Daniel,
nothing you have said is anything I didn't hear in a game shop 20 years ago. They just didn't write a book about it or get on Twitter. And they abandoned it too.
Daniel, I'm going to talk now, if that's okay with you.
I know you kept trying to talk in the middle of my sentence.
I wanted to address something to Dunder Moose.
Let's
can I answer Daniel, please? Can I make Dunder? Do we need to be moderated yet?
But I think we can get it back on track. I'm going to say Jeffro respond, and then Pundit has a question, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
I don't care how you played or what you heard. I don't care. You've heard on this show already very aggressive statements from people saying that nobody played the way that I have articulated in the real old school days. Allow me to just take that as axiomatic and say, yes, that seems to be the case, that these rules were written and then very quickly no one played them. They played a folk game very quickly. I think the AD&D rules are a fascinating document because they seem to indicate that in 1979, when Gygax released the Dungeon Master's Guide, that he thought the game that he was selling and the game that people would want to play and the game that would dominate the market would be this kind of club style continuing game of the sort that requires the 4 pillars of play that I've outlined earlier, 110 scaling, Bronstein play, 1-to-1 time, and then some kind of strict rules. Those things together. But nobody wanted that. And I'm not even sure if Gygax knew that nobody wanted that. And so this point that Pundit is making is like, Gygax never even used that rule. Well, like when they saw which way the wind was blowing and that you could make a lot of money pushing out Dragonlance modules, right? That are completely non-games. Like there's not even a game there. It's a script, right? And we can make money if people don't know how to play the game that we design. Then at that point, D&D is like whatever makes the most money. And I don't care about that. I don't care about that question at all. I don't care about what D&D became or how fast it became something different. I'm only telling people about the game that the OD&D and AD&D rule sets describe. If that's not your cup of tea, go play something else. All right. I'm just talking about what that game is. And I don't see why that should get people so animated the way we've seen on this show.
That's fair framing. A lot of why I'm animated is because you keep stepping in after I finish a sentence. Like I just let you finish your whole thing. The simple fact of the matter is that you frame it that way. That's fine.
I promise.
Okay. You can even say it went that direction. Yeah, I know. They trampled on me at the beginning of the show. So, the fact of the matter is that you can frame it that way. And I don't really have an argument with that.
Okay.
I think that's fair enough. Hold on. I think that's fair enough, but that's not the way the argument gets framed. Nor is that the ultimate conclusion that is drawn from the argument.
Okay. Well, this is the way we framed it in the book. This is the way, what I just told you is how we framed it in the book. So if you have that criticism with the BROSR, we can now move forward from this conversation and put all of that stuff that you don't like behind it. That's not necessarily
how he framed it in the book. He also framed very clearly to alter it to fit your table. Okay? So it's in there. That's all there is to it. You can't argue that fact and actually hold any.
I don't think he was talking about I think he's talking about the new book.
First of all, Bronstein is not a pillar of D&D.
Absolutely it is.
It is absolutely not. It may be something that they took some information from, that it may be some things that Arneson brought onto the table when they were forming things, especially AD&D, which is Gary's baby, is not Bronstein. Do not bring up.
I can speak on that, but I won't, but because I know Pundit has something that he wants to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Pundit.
Yeah. Well, just before I get to Dunder Moose, the idea of bringing up Dragonlance is pretty ridiculous because Gary was constantly changing his game long before anybody had ever heard of Margaret Weiss or Tracy Hickman. But okay, Dunder Moose. Here is my. Yes, I'm gonna apply a kind of criticism of yours, trying to be as kindly as possible.
I appreciate that.
You for most of this live stream, you've been making this what I think is a little bit of a cynical argument of saying, oh, but like, what am I supposed to believe? Right? You're saying this is what one person's saying, this is how it was, and then the other person is saying that it was never like this, right? And yet here you have Jeffro Johnson saying, well, Gary wrote something in all caps for 1 second, and that means we must believe it. And then the next second he's saying it doesn't matter that Gary Gygax never played that way, right? So like, are you going to apply that same principle that you've been applying to us to his nonsense?
Let me try to answer that one. And just fully acknowledging I'm not on y'all's level, so don't expect much. Curb your expectations. But here's how it breaks out for me. There's stuff in the book. When we tried the stuff that was in the book, the game changed for me in a way that I had not seen in the stuff I'd played before. Now, I'm a Johnny-come-lately. I don't have all the history. I wasn't there when Daniel played 1-to-1 time the first time. All I knew was that 5e was not it for me. And no criticism on your contribution to that.
That's fine. I don't play 5e.
Okay, right on. I just, for me, I was frustrated by the mental model of what I was supposed to do as a DM. I have Curse of Strahd over here on my shelf, and I read it, and it's like, so I, as a DM, have in my mind the way things are supposed to go, and the players, of course, as you guys all know, they will sell the key to the dungeon for 200 gold pieces, right? Like, and to me, the burnout came from me trying to shoehorn the way that I thought it was supposed to go. And so I bounced off of it. I went to the OSR and I thought I'd had the promised land, right? Like just amazing modules. And I bought a ton of them and my shelves filled up and I didn't play crap. I just bought. I was a whale. I was a collector, but I wasn't having, and I kept thinking, well, if I buy this thing, you go on 10-foot pole and the guy raves about it, right? I watch Questing Beast and he's like, gives a review. And I'm like, that'll be the thing that'll make my players go nuts. And then I bought it. And if I did play it, it wasn't clicking for me. And I see all these guys in the BROSR putting the hashtag on Twitter and having so much fun. And like I watched John Mollison and I heard about the sword, the Stormbringer, the saga of Stormbringer, and I see like multiple 1-to-1 time campaigns kicking things over from one table to the other, like the clubhouse play. And to me, I got excited about it. So like when Jeffro says, I don't care, I feel that. I feel like I don't care how the Monopoly guy played Monopoly the very second after it rolled, the first one rolled off the thing. I don't even know who made Monopoly. I know what the rules say. I don't care how Gary played because I have my own experiences now of having tried these pillars that you guys say, well, they're not necessary. Okay, fair enough. You don't have to do it this way. But when I did, it blew my mind. I started having fun. My players woke up, got off their phones, and started leaning in. And so for me, it's been the answer. And I know that's like a cheesy, I'm not addressing the big issues from the point you guys are. I've just got a very personal, anecdotal view that when I started doing this the way it was written, it changed my game so much that all of the other stuff that is bothering you guys just didn't matter to me anymore. So I don't know if that answers your question.
First of all, you mean Jeffro's interpretation of how it was written, first off. But
okay,
second,
fair enough.
It's fine. I mean, if you've had a good experience running a game with Jeffro's version of 1-1 time, that's great. I mean, nobody is saying that you shouldn't try that, and if you like it, great, right? But that doesn't resolve the logical fallacy of calling on the holy script of Gary in AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, ignoring other parts of the book, and then saying it doesn't matter what Gary did, right? Like it doesn't matter what he actually played. Right?
I so get that, and for me, I don't think
it is a much bigger logical fallacy than anything that you could be arguing about. You know, the difference in what Griff was saying and what I was saying, or something.
To me,
like
it's
that.
stepping stones, right? Like the first one is raw. Let's just do it as written. That allowed me to realize things that I just weren't fitting in my head. And so I moved on to the next one. And so I didn't need to defend that hill of raw anymore. I didn't need to defend that hill of this is how Gary played and this is what Gary said. Once I got to the next stage where I started seeing the results, then we start experimenting where it's at there. And then once you've had an experience, I can have you come in and tell me about logical fallacies. I can have Daniel tell me about how great his games were. My games got better, and I know it because I've experienced it. So it's hard for me to like take the semantic arguments on the same weight as what I've seen, if that makes any sense.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if your games got better, because that's kind of what I've said here the entire time. Is one of the core places that I agree with the bros, which is what I always thought was hilarious, was when you put this together. Of course, obviously not knowing that Jeffro was going to be on, I was like, holy crap, somehow I'm going to be on this panel show with Dunder Moose and Pundit and Griff, and I am going to be the closest thing he has to a bro supporter on here. Because
I appreciate it, man.
There are a lot of philosophical things in the actual gameplay that I do think makes sense, such as trying to play or playing as close to the written rules as possible where they matter. Maybe not necessarily including every single element. You might say, well, we're not going to be doing anything that has to do with domain play, so we can ignore that section for right now. But for instance, if I'm going into combat, being very explicit about following those combat rules until we understand the reasons why they work the way they work, and then we can make adjustments that fit better for play style, the way we want to run our game. That's why. Thank you for pulling that up.
I had to scroll to find it.
Yeah,
Chat is going crazy, yo.
And yeah, I went ahead and I actually specifically asked for that to get pulled up. So give me 1 second. So I do agree with that. And I bet your game did get better because you went into approaching your game from a very systematic approach. That is one major issue with a lot of gaming, is that people, they don't go in with a systematic approach to it. They make changes based on whim as opposed to thinking about what they're trying to promote. And that is in itself an issue. And it does get solved by playing raw. It gets improved by later when you understand adjusting and adapting to be better. And when he was sitting there, they were asking about Monopoly. And I love it because anytime you bring up Bronstein as, core pillar of D&D, that's like sitting here and talking about the Landlord's game and Monopoly. If you actually know the two, the Landlord's game is not Monopoly. It is there's some very strong similarities. It is in no way the same game.
Oh, so are you telling me the guy that made Monopoly never played that way?
I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with it, right? But the Landlord's game was created by a woman who was a socialist.
Nobody cares.
And
Nobody
cares. It was meant to suggest that the whole concept of property was an inherent evil, right? And then
Did you get rich
during
on
the
it?
Depression, some other guy got a copy of that game, and he remade it into Monopoly, which was a game about how buying property is good.
Yeah. The point is it goes right back to my initial analogy, in that, and it's different from my car analogy. It's Bronstein is a horse and carriage, and the bros want me to believe that the horse and carriage is an integral part of a car because a body on a chassis with wheels is an integral part of a car.
Okay, can I
the Landlord game may be a seed. It may be something that some of these concepts grew from.
Yeah.
But that's not the same game.
Okay.
And it never appears.
You know what, guys? We're coming up on 2 hours. I feel like we're losing the audience. Why don't we we'll go around, everyone gets a final say. We'll start with Daniel, since you were going. Just sum it up in like 2 minutes. And then we'll just go clockwise. I'm gonna skip me because I don't have much more to add. I'll go Pundit and then Jeffro and call it a night.
Yeah. So long and short, the big thing is there's a lot that I think that is of merit from what the BROSR does in terms of basically being a laboratory, and in particular, a laboratory that tests old concepts in the way that they were discarded, because maybe there are some good things about them. For instance, the one I like to use, 1-to-1 time, I think is absolutely fantastic for games like Cyberpunk, where you're very mission based. I think it thrives there. Is so much better for that than even an exploration style game.
Yeah.
The way the game evolved from the sort of war gamey medieval, I'm a soldier, go dive the dungeon, come back, dive the dungeon, come back. The way it evolved from that into a more big appendix in fantasy based game, it's not so much good for that anymore. But the BROSR is at least putting that in there and making it work and testing it and putting it that way. My issue is the exaggerated importance of, the exaggerated reaching back into the depths of time definition of what D&D is. The claim of core components that are at the best inspirations. And then, of course, the attitude that if you don't agree with them, you're absolutely not playing anything right. You're absolutely terrible. It's all wrong. It's garbage. You're doing it all terrible. And that is, to me, a massive disservice to all players, including BROSR players who may have the next great idea, but, oh, no, we're not going to do that because the club says we're going to do it this way. And the masters have not come down and said that we're allowed to do this yet.
Well said. For my bit, I just want to say thank you guys for coming on the show. I knew this was going to be a good one. I knew I brought the right people on. I'm a little sad that Griff bailed, because I think he would have had a lot of good stuff to add to the second half of the show. But I appreciate.
It would have been really boring. It would have been really boring.
Look, I couldn't.
I appreciate the rest of you. I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
Made it 2 hours without trashing him for
Griff,
his IP Nazi.
Griff has revealed more about how the original game was played than anything you've done, Jeffro.
Yeah, but he's also revealed more about how IP law doesn't work than anybody in the hobby.
I'll grant you that.
All right. Did you other closing thought, Pundit?
Yes. So I will agree that pretty much everything that Daniel just said is correct. You know, that there is a virtue in looking back at mechanics that were discarded and then looking for means by which to apply them in interesting new ways, right? That is a very big part of what the second and third wave of OSR products do, right? My own games, you know, like somebody just said, oh, well, how could it be D&D without domain play? Well, it can be D&D without domain play, but domain play is really interesting, and it's something I was doing way back in the actual old school era, right? And it is something that is in my games, right? It was in Dark Albion. It's in Baptism of Fire, you know. It's not something I got from Jeffro, you know. And the entire point of something like the OSR is nowadays, you know, ignoring the clone games, it's about trying to work within that box of what was old school D&D, which means you have to have the core of it, and you can have peripherals, and you can also design ideas that were never actually used in the old school era, but that fit within that old school framework, right? And the end result of the OSR is that there's thousands now of OSR games and products that have introduced fascinating innovations, right? To the point now that, like, you know, we're talking about Shadow Dark, right? Like Shadow Dark has a ton of mechanics in it that, you know, 5e players think are radical new ideas. Most of them are ideas that were in the OSR since 2008 or so, you know, like including, like I was pointing out that a lot of the mechanics in Shadow Dark are similar to the mechanics in Lion and Dragon, you know. So the question becomes, like, what is the actual core of D&D? The core of D&D, I mean, the reason it's called basic D&D is because that ends up being closer to the core. You could actually go more than that, right? Like D&D at its fundamental can be a very simple game that has to have certain core mechanics, and then you can build out of that all kinds of other stuff, right? The real problem with the BROSR is that Jeffro is kind of a coward in that he constantly wants to claim that what he's doing is not an interesting thought experiment of his own creation, and instead, I don't know if it's an inferiority complex or what, you know. Instead he wants to invoke the idea that this is the sacred writ from on high, created by Gary Gygax, and that this is the only true way to play, right? Which is essentially a direct opposite of everything that happened in the old school era, right? Which was a time of, like, until the OSR, it was the most innovative period in RPGs because everything was up in the air, right? You could come up with ideas that nobody had ever come up with before, you know. And by the late 80s and all through the 90s and the early 2000s, that kind of went away, right? And the OSR is actually much closer to what real old school play was like than the idea of saying, well, there's this way to play, and that is the right and only way to play, you know. So it's kind of a ridiculous conceit that ends up it ends up becoming something that is that is reducing what could have been an interesting concept within design into a cultish sort of behavior.
All right. Thanks. And Jeffro, final closing thoughts.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me get a word in. I feel like I've been really generous. I am generous. I let everybody have their say.
Mm-hmm.
And I even was gone for a year. I was gone for a year. I left an opening for everyone. I gave everybody plenty of space to create. And like what happened? What happened? I come back after a year and tune in, and I'm honestly the only thing people are talking about. Still, I'm still the biggest thing in RPGs. It's really, it's sad because I kind of thought I would come back and see that things had evolved, and I don't think we're evolving. I think in my absence, I look what people say. Like within Black Lodge Games just the other day, pop on and say, "Hey, where's all the RPG content?" All I see is politics. I hear people on private channels saying, I just talk about D&D online. I don't actually play the games. I'm not playing games. Yeah, there's nothing to talk about since I left. It's really, I feel for you guys. I feel for you guys with your YouTube shows, and you gotta get something out, and you're just recycling the old talking point. And there's no one around to react against. There's no one around to undercut. There's no one around to contend with. You just don't have anything to give you a means of like getting traction and energy and spark. It's just so dead out here without me around, But I set it up. I set it up for everybody to just slam it home this past year, and I was thinking, somebody's going to do something with the winning secrets, because I sure am. I'm not going to do it. Why would I do anything with it, But I set it up. I set it up for everybody to just slam it home. And what happened? Yeah. I wonder why that is. I wonder why nobody did anything with it. There's derivative stuff, on YouTube channel, the serial numbers filed off, very lightweight stuff. Not that people's hearts aren't really in it. They're not really trying to turn a revolution in games. They're just trying to pick out a few parts and see if we can fit that in with the business as usual stuff, But it's sad. It's sad. Okay. Who's going to come out and spot? I'll come out.
Okay, Kickstarter peddler.
I'll come out and spike the ball right now. That's right. That's right.
Go spike over the ball. What? How's that meme go? How many levels down are you?
All right, man. You had your chance. The show's ending. No more debate.
Yeah. Wow, we're at 5,000.
Dude, Jesus Christ.
We're at 5, bro. I let you talk. Why can't you play nice? Yeah, we're 5,000 over there right now. I'd really like to see it get to 2K so that you can get a copy of BROSR in print. This is the first module to explain Bronstein style play ever. I feel like that module is, with Keep on the Borderlands, you had with your basic D&D that taught you how to run a dungeon. It was perfect. I love that module. With the Isle of Dread and the expert set, you had a module that taught you how to do wilderness travel and incorporate that with dungeon play and go back and forth between it. Brilliant. I love that module. But basic D&D and expert D&D fell short. It didn't go far enough. It didn't solve the problem with a module for the companion set to show people how to move on to Bronstein style play in a continuing D&D campaign. BROSR filled that gap. This is the missing link of gaming history to allow you to experience the type of game that D&D was intended to be by the designers, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, to make the RPG that you're playing more in line with the type of game that they were playing in the early days. The D&D that our friend Kazimir Urbanski is very, very worried about people unearthing and presenting to people. We did it. We went behind his back and we brought it to you. And it makes a lot of people angry, as you can see here, because it directly competes with their ability to garner adoration from the RPG masses and to turn $1 in the PDF merchant stat. So, you know, that's why they hate us. They also hate us because we play D&D better than them. But thank you much. Thank you much. Had a great time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thank you guys for being with us for 2 hours. We'll see you on the next one.